So I want to introduce our next presenter. Gordan Lauc is professor of biochemistry and molecular biology at the University of Zagreb in Croatia. In 2017, he initiated the launch of the Human Glycome Project and is one of its two co-directors. He's going to talk about using glycans as a tool to prevent age-related diseases. Please welcome Gordan Lauc.
Hello, everybody. My name is Gordan Lauc, and I'm a professor at University of Zagreb and a couple of other universities. I'm also director of the Human Glycome Project. Furthermore, I have to disclose that I have shares in the company GlycanAge and a couple of patents in the field. In my talk, I will not be talking directly about the GlycanAge test, but GlycanAge has a virtual booth at this conference, so if somebody is interested, you can visit them there. What I will be talking about is how can we use glycans as a tool to prevent age-related diseases. Glycans are the ultimate layer of molecular complexity, but at the same time, they're the most neglected molecules of cellular communication. And this became very prominent in this COVID pandemic when even the director of NIH was tweeting about the S-glycoprotein without the single glycan on its surface. While actually S-glycoprotein is more glycan than peptide on the surface. And these glycans are not only decorations, they're actively participating in interaction with the receptors. So we cannot really understand the function of S-glycoprotein without including glycans in the study. And this is not only S-glycoprotein, the majority of proteins are glycosylated. So glycans are important structural components of nearly all proteins. So most of the proteins would have a polypeptide part, this is the gray in this figure, and then some glycan decorations, which are these colored elements. And yes, we can study proteins without the glycans, so even the S-glycoprotein with the glycan, we can do a lot of research on it, but the analogy I like to make is that if you are studying a protein without the glycans, this is like studying this lovebird without a single feather. So you can do a lot of biochemistry experiments, you can do physiological experiments, but you will never see the bird flying because bird without feathers cannot fly, glycans, proteins without glycans cannot do all their functions. And the key difference between polypeptide and the glycan part of a glycoprotein is that while proteins are completely defined in the gene, so there is a gene sequence which determines the polypeptide part, glycans are encoded in a network of dozens or even hundreds of proteins of genes which work together to determine the final structure of a glycan. And unfortunately, a big part of the research today is very myopic. It's focused on genes and epigenetics because this is analytically easy and the information capacity is very low, while the structures with very high information capacity are being largely ignored. Just to compare the complexity of nucleic acids and glycoproteins, so nucleic acids have 4 building blocks, proteins have 20, glycoproteins have over 2,000 different glycan blocks which come together to determine the structure of a glycoprotein. And it is actually glycans which are responsible for a large part of inter-individual variation, including the blood groups, which are glycan by their chemical nature. And this is not only me claiming that, there is a series of documents by the European Science Foundation, by the US National Academies, which say glycans are directly involved in the pathophysiology of every major disease. But the problem with glycans is that they're structurally complex, they cannot be amplified, so it is not easy to work with them. It takes many chemical steps to get the final structure of a glycan. And this is particularly difficult in a large throughput, and we need to do high-scale studies to join other omics field. And my lab is leading high-throughput glycomics. We analyzed over 150 individual glycomes so far, and they didn't come from any people. They came from some of the best phenotype and genotype cohorts in collaboration with some of the best researchers in the world. And thanks to this huge amount of data which we accumulated, we enabled glycomics to join the mainstream science. And nowadays, glycan data is actually helping clinical colleagues to publish in the leading journals, including gastroenterology, circulation research, and so on. One of the proteins we are heavily focusing on is immunoglobulin G. because we know that the effector functions, so what will happen after antibody binds the antigen, are determined by glycan in Fc domain. Whether there is a corfucose or not, whether there is a salic acid or not, this completely changes the function of a molecule. So IgG can either be a pro-inflammatory or even an anti-inflammatory molecule, depending on its glycan. And the part we are focusing on is how different are people in the way they glycosylate their immunoglobulins. And we just look at this figure. This is 6 random individuals, different color, different glycan. We can see that people are different. And these differences are partly genetic. Approximately 50% of a glycome composition is determined by genes, so 50% is heritable, while the rest of it is environmental. And one of the key environmental factors which affect the IgG glycome is age. So when we are young, we have mostly these type of structures attached to our IgG, and they are suppressing inflammation. So IgG glycome of a young person is actively suppressing inflammation. While as we age, we mostly have these shorter pro-inflammatory structures. So IgG glycome of an older person is promoting inflammation, and actually to the process of inflammaging is contributing to the tissue deterioration with aging. With this knowledge, we tried to predict chronological age from a person using glycans, and nearly a decade ago we developed this GlycanAge index where you can predict age of a person, not really accurately, approximately 9 years between the average GlycanAge and the chronological age. But what is interesting here is that the difference between the GlycanAge and the real chronological age is determined by healthy and unhealthy lifestyle. For example, if we look at this difference most strongly correlates with all the biomarkers of unhealthy life. Also, when we look with people with different diseases, the last 4 diseases. So people with different diseases look older than their real chronological age, while the healthy people look younger. And this is not a specific biomarker of a given disease, but it's a functional effector, a molecular process which contributes to disease development. And we believe this is these glycans which regulate the low-grade chronic inflammation. Another thing we did, we looked at the different cohorts in the world, 27 different populations from different regions of the world, and we realized that people are different in the way their IgG glycome is composed. And this difference is mostly explained, it most strongly associates with the expected lifespan and actually development of a country where people live. So if you live in a developed country with long expected lifespan, your glycans move towards the old glycome slower than if you live in a poorer or very poor countries where it moves really quickly towards the old age. And we are now trying to understand how is this happening and why is this happening. And we learned that IgG glycome is regulated by over 40 different genes. So we did a series of GWAS papers where we identified this map of genes which regulate IgG glycome. And interestingly, this network is highly pleiotropic with the multiple diseases and conditions. There are 94 different phenotypes, starting from lupus and diabetes and Crohn's disease and so on, which associate, which examples are the cardiovascular diseases, where we, by analyzing over 3,500 people, we learned that IgG composition of the IgG glycome today associates with the cardiovascular disease risk score, meaning it predicts cardiovascular events in the future. And interestingly, it's not only a biomarker, because through a series of studies which Phil Scholl at UT Southwestern did, and the last paper in collaboration with us, he showed that these glycans are actually causative. So they're actually, these bad old glycans are actually causing hypertension, at least in mice, and you can even prevent it by dietary interventions. I don't have time to go into detail. This was published in Population last year. What we did subsequently, we looked in a large prospective cohort where people were collected, where samples were collected 20, 30 years ago, 27,000 people. In the subsequent 10 years, there was 508 incident cardiovascular events, heart attacks and strokes. We looked how predictive glycans are for these future events, and they are as predictive in men and even more predicting in women than all other biomarkers combined. But it is actually quantifying not just a biomarker, but the functional effectors of aging, the molecules which contribute to aging, and they integrate genetic baseline, epigenetics, and environmental factors. And the key question here is this something we can change? So can we change our glycans and maybe prevent diseases? We looked at several cohorts of people who were undergoing bariatric surgery. So for example, if you do bariatric surgery, your IgG glycome moves towards the younger IgG glycome. This is quite radical, but also if you're losing or gaining weight physiologically, and this is something we did by following 2,000 twins for 20 years and analyzing them in 3 time points, if somebody is gaining weight, that person is aging faster than if somebody is losing weight. So just by gaining or losing weight, you can modify your IgG glycome. But there is no magic diet. So we compared 1,000 people on 5 different diets. This is still unpublished, very preliminary data, but this is 1,000 people, 5 different diets, and we see that each of the diets, somebody would benefit, but somebody else would not benefit from a diet. But at least now what we can do, we can measure what is going on and see when glycans are changing in a good or the wrong direction. The same thing goes for exercise. So some types of exercise are pro-inflammatory. So there is no universal solution, but we can monitor and see what is happening. Different biohacking approaches also seem to work. There are now dozens and dozens of people which we tested and where their IgG glycome would be 20, even 40 years younger than their chronological age. We don't really know which of the things they're doing is working. So we are trying to do different studies to see which of the approaches is actually really working for most of the people. And one of the proper studies we did was with estrogen, where we had a placebo-controlled trial where young women had menopause-induced chemically, and then either received the placebo or the estrogen patch. So women received placebo, so where the gonadal hormones were suppressed, aged between 9 and 15 years within a couple of months, which did not happen to women having this anti-inflammatory IgG glycome in young women. We still did not do a proper study in the normal menopause, but we do know that these glycans go towards old age very quickly when the menopause is approaching. So to slowly come to the end of my talk, so we are looking at molecules which are functional effectors. They do the work, they regulate the inflammation. And what we hope is that by monitoring people, we can help them before they come to the end of the process where something is irreversible. Because normally people show up in hospital when some of the organ system failed, when there is pain, where they cannot function anymore, and then they get a label of some of the chronic diseases like arthritis or lupus or whatever. But if we detect this process early, if we identify molecules which do the damage, and we know that glycans change up to 10 years before other symptoms, then by simple lifestyle interventions, we can return people to the healthy homeostatic condition without ever developing a disease. And this works for many diseases, and actually it could be even working for COVID. This is also very preliminary. We just did our first 3 COVID cohorts from Bergamo, Barcelona, and Portugal, and what we see that even though age is a very strong predictor, chronological age is a strong predictor of severe COVID, probably severe COVID. So it seems that people with older GlycanAge are more prone to severe COVID than people with a with the regular GlycanAge. And at the very end, I have to acknowledge that this is funded with the numerous research grants, mostly from Europe. We got over 15 million euros to study glycans in different projects, and that I have a large research group who's doing all this work so they can go around and talk what they do. And I thank you for your attention.
Fantastic. Wow, some great work being done in Zagreb. Thank you to Dr. Lauc.